Hey everybody, it's Christopher Nejman. So I started this quilt a long time ago. It has to be at least 20 years ago that I started this, almost 20 years ago. And this was some ribbon trim with metallic thread sewn onto a design. And I've done this on a couple different brand machines, so each one of these stitch designs are a little bit different as we go along. But now I've got to continue the blocks. So here is, I've got quite a few of these blocks, and you can see on these blocks I have to put the tape around. Alright, stay with me, I'll show you how I'm going to do this. Don't go away, I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. So I'm not a real avid quilter. I mean, I know how to quilt, as you can see. I know how to put things together and everything, and I've done a couple quilts in my life. But I'm not like I make quilts all the time. But when I do make them, I like them to be a little colorful, you know. And this was a simple patch. How many was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 34. This was a 16 patch with just strips that went around it with the framing. So it was nothing really that difficult. But I wanted the fabric choices, so I used batiks, which I found to be very beautiful in this green color. So to be able to get this tape on, this trim, I'm using this ribbon that I bought a long time ago. I found it on this bolt. There was a sewing machine, or not a sewing machine, but a sewing store that went out of business, and they were selling all these big trims and stuff. So, you know, whenever you find deals like that, I'm sure most you know, you grab it when you find it, and one day you'll find use for it. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to apply the double-sided tape. This is leather tape because I do a lot of leather bags, and I found this works really great. So I'm just going to stick this onto the back of this trim, and then I'm going to stick it around the whole quilt block wherever I want it. And I did some testing already. I tested, this is vinyl by the way, and metallic thread. So I stuck it down and I tested out with metallic thread. And first of all, you know, people always said you can't sew on vinyl very well. Well, here I am. I'm sewing on vinyl with this. See, it's stuck with the tape on there, and I had no problems at all. I'll sew this to give you to show you an example of how wonderful this sews. All right. So now I'll go to the sewing machine. Okay. First, I want to walk you through my setup. What I've got up here is I've got the thread director, which attaches to your bobbin winder. And then you can see how I've got the spool cap in the front and the back, and it's just ever so slightly allowing the thread spool to move. You don't want it too loose in case the thread does a hiccup and wraps around that spindle. So you want to make sure it doesn't have any room to play. And this is the thread I'm using today. It's Madeira metallic. I've got a top stitch needle in, size 14, and so now let me show you how I'm going to sew this. I'll do a test here. Oh, and then on this machine what I did was, this particular machine is a 9mm foot, and this is a Janome Skyline S5. And what I did was I had from my Janome 9000, I went and I switched the ankle and I'm using the 7mm wide feet on this machine. I like it better for when I'm doing different projects. I realize this is, even though this is a nice machine, that 9mm wide foot just doesn't cut it for me most of the time. So you can see how I did that. But my setup is I only have it going as 7.0mm wide and 3.5mm length. Okay, and there it is. All right, so let me do a test sample here and show you. Okay, so let's start this out now. All right, so let's do a test on here and I'll show you. Remember, this is all glued down with that leather tape, and this is that trim. So let's give it a shot and test it out and show you. I don't like to use the thread trimmer on metallic thread. I like to cut it manually. Now look how nice that's stitched. Look how nice that's stitched. And this is vinyl. This is marine vinyl fabric. Isn't that something? And this was my satin stitch foot. It's got non-stick plates underneath it. So now let's go ahead and get this quilt block started. Well, actually continued. Gonna continue this quilt block. This is a little challenging because I'm going to be starting right in the corner. And the corner has some challenges, but I'm not doing an award-winning quilt here. I'm just doing this for me. So let's take my time. Okay, I want to make sure I got this fabric hands, and let's do it. Let me get this camera closer for you guys. Okay, so I'm just going to keep that tape, watch that tape to make sure it stays kind of centered as it can be. I really got to be careful because it's easy to go off. But I need to attach it to this. Before I was doing this tape by itself, and then I was sticking it down, and I thought, how am I going to attach it? It wasn't attaching right, so I thought, just let me do it this way. This is a little trickier, but I like the security of it better. You can see why it's taking me so long to make this quilt, because there's just so much to do with it. Of course, it's my own fault because it's the way I designed it. I remember looking at some of those quilts that people make that enter in quilt competitions, and the intricate details and so much stitching. And some people, I think it's one lady said it took her 3 years to make a quilt, that quilt. And I can believe it because there's so much stitching and detailing. I do love a quilt with a lot of metallic thread. I love the glitz. Now, some of you might be traditionalist and you like, traditional cotton thread stuff, but I love the glitz, man. I love the glitz. In my opinion, it just gives it a richer look, a more vibrant look. And to me, it just spells money. When I see all that glitz and metallic thread in there, I see dollar signs. So this is how I'm going to go around, and you can see here how it's attaching very nicely, and here's the back, Again, here's the front. So I figured this will probably take me about a year to finish if I work on it a little bit at a time. You know, a lot of you out there watching this are people who love to sew and love to quilt. And if you're like me, we have multiple sewing machines. So, and if you're like me, you have a couple different sewing rooms in your house. So my machines get they get set up and they stay set up. So I don't have to keep moving, changing and everything. Like this machine, it's going to stay for this quilt. So I'll be able to come back to this one now. Yeah. I think it's going to be really pretty. I think it's really, really pretty. And if it's a couple mistakes, it doesn't matter. It's just for me. But I wanted to show you all that because I thought this was really cool. And I hope you enjoyed this little tip on metallic thread and all that stuff and how wonderful this sews. You know, like I said, this was vinyl fabric. This was vinyl. Or as they call faux leather, fake leather. Okay? All right, my friends, take care. I'll talk to you later. Bye now.